Mr. President, I'm going to continue to try here, and I thank the Majority Leader for his patience. I think it's really not a matter about fairness to the President, but fairness to the American people. I think this is a matter of, as my colleague Senator Rono pointed out, justice delayed is justice denied. We have judicial emergencies that are out there, many on our list, that have not been filled, as Senator Schumer pointed out. This is about comparing what has been done on the workload of this Congress to any previous Congress on the confirmation of judges, and we're dead last as far as the action has been taken. And I think the real critical number is the number of vacancies. When you compare the number of vacancies when the Republicans took the majority, there were 43 vacancies in our courts. That number has almost doubled to 79 vacancies. And when you take a look at the pace of confirmation, because you say maybe there was a lot that had to be taken up, we mentioned hundreds over a president's term, but as Senator Schumer pointed out, there's only been 17 judges confirmed to date. That's one of the lowest numbers in the history of our country, in modern history of our country. And in the last year of President Bush's administration, at the same period of time, in that 2-year cycle, 68 judges had been confirmed by a democratically controlled Senate. What makes matters more difficult for the American people to understand is that there are 20 judicial nominations currently past the Senate Judiciary Committee. I believe every one has been passed by unanimous voice vote. So they're not controversial, just a matter of getting them up for confirmation. 20 of them that have yet to be acted upon on the floor of the United States Senate. So I'm going to make 2 unanimous requests. Let me start with the first, which will deal with 4 of these 20 that are currently pending, all passed the Judiciary Committee by unanimous voice votes. 2 are from states in which have Democratic senators. 2 are from states that have Republican senators. So I make a unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to executive session to consider the following nominations. Calendar number 307, Xinis of Maryland. Calendar number 357, Montanati from New Jersey. Calendar number 358, Rossiter from Nebraska. And calendar number 359, Stanton from Tennessee. The Senate proceed to vote without intervening action or debate on the nominations in the order listed, and that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, and that no further motions to be in order to the nomination. That any related statements be printed in the record, that the President been immediately notified of the Senate's action, and the Senate then resume the legislative session.
Mr. President.
Is there objection?
Mr. President.
Senator from Texas.
Mr. President, for the reasons previously expressed by the Majority Leader, I object.
The objection is heard.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
Senator from Maryland.
Mr. President, I'm going to make one further request in this series with Senator Rono and Senator Schumer, and that's to deal with the next nominee that would be up, considering the length of time that she has been on the calendar. It's a nominee, Paula Xinis from Maryland. Her nomination was made in March 2015, over a year ago, by President Obama. It was recommended by Senator Mikulski and myself after an exhaustive vetting process that we go through before making recommendations to the President of the United States. She was then nominated over a year ago. She had a hearing in the Judiciary Committee on July of 2015. As I reported earlier, she was reported out by unanimous voice vote of the committee in September of last year, and she's been waiting all this time for action on the Senate floor. We need this vacancy filled. We have now 2 vacancies in the Maryland district, and the Chief Judge has related to us several times that this position is critical for the administration of justice to the people of Maryland and our nation. So therefore, I would ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to executive session to consider the following nomination, calendar number 307, Xinis of Maryland, that the Senate proceed to vote without intervening action or debate on the nomination, that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, that no further motions be in order to the nomination, that any related statements be printed in the record, and that the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action, and the Senate then resume legislative session.
Is there objection?
Mr. President.
The Senator from Texas.
Mr. President, for reasons previously given, I object.
The objection has been heard.
Mr. President. Mr. President,
Senator from Wyoming.
I want to inject a few comments in this discussion, too. This isn't all just about Republicans. It isn't all about Democrats. I had a nominee from Wyoming. Incidentally, he wasn't nominated by me. He was nominated by our Democratic governor. And it took me about 9 months to get a hearing in committee. This was for a district judge. This wasn't for a Supreme Court. This wasn't for a circuit court. This was for a district court. It took me about 9 months to get a hearing for him. And do you know, at the end of 2 years, he had not gotten a vote in committee? His life was in suspense for 2 years. That's not right. Neither party should do that. But as long as the other side is saying that we're holding things up, I got to point out that it's not just a one-sided thing. So I hope that some of the criticism can end and some of the work can be done. I yield the floor.
Mr. President,
The Senator from Maryland.
I just really want to share the frustration of my colleague from Wyoming. This just should not be a partisan issue. I agree it's wrong to hold people's lives in abeyance. We're trying to get the very best people to serve on our courts. And if they have to put their lives on hold for a year or two, will they come forward and seek to serve as a judge? We know that for the ones that we're trying to get on the bench, it's going to be a financial sacrifice. They can make more money in the private sector. We want the very best on our courts. But if someone's put on hold for 2 years or for 1 year, it compromises their ability if they're in the private practice of law, and it's not the right thing to do, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican in the White House. We got to act on these appointments a lot faster. The point that I raised is that during this term of Congress, during this year and a half, we've seen the number of judicial vacancies go up from 43 to 79. At this particular moment, there are 20 nominees on the executive calendar that have cleared the committee by voice votes that are not controversial. And some have been waiting over a year since their nomination. And we can do something about it right now, and we should do something about it right now. I yield the floor.